Hi everyone. Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to today's Children's Services Review Group. I'll just start off with the housekeeping notes. So the meeting this evening will be live streamed to the public. A recording of the public part of the meeting will be available on the council website within 24 hours of the meeting. Remote participants joining using Teams. Well, we haven't got any remote participants, but anyway, those joining via Teams would usually have to put their hand up icon. But the key thing is people here. Please remember to switch your microphone on when speaking and off when you've finished, and speak directly into the microphone. And please make sure you switch off your mobile phones and place them on silent. Okay. So we'll move on to the first item of the agenda, which is apologies for absence.
There are quite a few acronyms in the report, and I've looked back through it to see if there's full explanations, but some of them I can't find a full explanation. So if in future, and we've asked it for it several times, if there could be like a glossary with them on at the beginning, that would help an awful lot.
So yeah, thanks, Diane. So apologies for absence.
We have apologies from councillors Keynes and Malcolm, and from Joe Miles, co-opting, Chair.
Thank you. Moving on to item 2, which is the minutes of our last meeting, dated 21st of September. I'm sure you've all read those minutes. Any comments on the minutes? No. So those are agreed. Yeah, agreed. Thank you. Moving on to item 3, disclosures of interest. Any disclosures of interest in the room? No. I'll just disclose, because people do tend to disclose when they're a governor of a school. So I've recently become governor of Summaries Junior School. I don't see it all come up today, but I'll declare it anyway.
Chair, just you know, for completeness, I'm a governor of Woodland Secondary School. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Moving on to item 4, urgent business. Certainly nothing's been brought to my attention.
None, Chair.
And references from committees and other bodies?
None, Chair.
Okay, so under item 6, which is the chair's update, I don't really have anything under here, but I would like to take this opportunity, obviously, to mention, obviously, Amanda Lewis, who's sort of been a regular attendee here and has contributed a great deal over several years to Luton Council and to this committee. And I'm sure that you'd all like to join me in wishing Amanda all the very best for the future. And also to welcome Alison Parkinson into the new role here. Thank you. So we'll move on to item 7 now, which is the fostering annual report, pages 7 to 40. And I think that's your hands.
Okay, so the first really I want to say is in terms of the fostering, you would note that the whole of this year 2021-22 we've managed to recruit to 8 foster carers, which is a very big improvement from the previous years. The team has remained stable. We now have 2 team managers within the fostering service, one for assessment and recruitment, and one for fostering support and development. Within the 2 teams, we've also introduced another strand to placement of to increase placement of children. So supported lodgings is a project we are developing within the fostering strand. So, you know, all of that together is keeping us very, very busy. We have worked very, very hard to develop our special guardianship. You would note that the assessments for special guardianship has increased over the time. Connected care assessments, which is also another strand of the permanency, has increased over time. So again, a very busy area. In terms of foster care and foster care retention, at the moment we have, let me double check, 120, how many households? Sorry. I will come back to that in a moment. I don't want to keep us waiting. But our foster care households have also increased, and so has our the foster care, the household, but the individual carers. So we're seeing more and more of placements of children within our own in-house foster carers. So we've seen more of children being placed in our own in-house foster care than we did last year. We've seen that the gap between our
730.
Yes, thank you. So 138 fostering households this year, and last year was 133, so there's been an increase. We've also seen an increase, and I'm very pleased to say, an increase of narrowing the gap between our placements in-house than in independent fostering agencies. That has been very, very good. So all in all, in terms of progress, a huge progress we have made. We've looked at also our support for our own foster carers, and one of the areas we've worked very, very hard to develop is A, training for our foster carers, but B, the psychological support we do have in a way of our own psychologist embedded within the team, who supports the foster carers as well as, you know, the looked after children. And that has really, really worked very, very well over time. Stabilizing placements, ensuring that the foster carers feel supported enough to continue with some of the difficult placements that or situations that they have had with children and young people. So we're maintaining that. We want to go on in relation to train to look at therapeutic foster care training, and there has been consultation with the Luton Foster Care Association to look at that training. But majority of the foster carers were saying to us that, look, at the moment we are enjoying and benefiting from the one-to-one support that we have from the psychological service. We want to think a little bit more before coming back to you on that. So we're still, you know, having that conversation with them. What else have we? Are we doing so well?
I think I just wanted to highlight also the impact in terms of some of the work that you've asked us about before, the stride in reducing the percentage gap between the in-house placements and the IFAS provisions. So the gap was 19% at March 2019, and we've now got that reduced to 8.4, so a reduction of 10.6. So you can see that our trajectory is an increase from 2019 of 119 children in-house provision to, as of July, 130. So a significant amount of work around making sure that not only do we increase our foster carers, the foster carers do come and go, not only do we increase, but we also support them to be able to have siblings, etc., in their households. We've also done quite a lot of work with the Independent Fostering Agency and the framework to reduce some of the costs related to our IFAs. So even though we are reliant on independent fostering agencies, as are most local authorities, we have decreased the use of the IFAs. So we've gone from 175 children in IFAs in 2019 to July of this year, 154. So we're increasing the use of our internal foster carers. We're increasing and holding steady to continue to recruit. That said, obviously, people do come and go, and people retire and move on. So we are constantly, kind of looking at ways to recruit our in-house provision, but at the same time looking at the most cost-effective way of our IFA. So I just want to add that in, Teresa, in terms of highlighting some of the questions I've had here before.
The other question that certainly within corporate parenting has been brought to my attention is about distance of children, placed out of Luton. And again, you would see that we've made some good improvements in that area once more. We're seeing more and more of children placed within Luton rather than out of Luton.
Questions, so on the questions,
yes,
and
yes,
okay,
yes.
So Councillor Petts.
Yeah, we're all faced with this potential of a financial crisis coming up. Are you making provision for foster carers to be able to cope with this? Because what I see is that they're not going to be able to afford to be foster carers, which is a pretty big crisis, really, So what's happening? Is there anything happening?
Oh, I'm not very good at this, sorry. What we have looked at, with foster carers in line with national inflation, we've looked at that increase for the foster carers. We're currently also looking at an uplift of the fostering allowance for them, and we are in negotiation and in talks with them about what that would look like. But of course, as we say to all of our foster carers, the door is open. Any difficulties, please do let us know, and we will step in to offer that support and guidance. Yes, yeah.
Councillor Wahid.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question on your provision at London Road. How much placement, how many children's placement is there? And you mentioned the complex physical disabilities. Again, how much placement is it for the physical disabilities?
The road is a respite.
Yes.
Yeah. And so there will be a number of children where respite provision is there and they're not there full time. So it's more rotating. And at any one time, they could have up to 6-7 children. And then, other children will come as they need the respite. Yes.
Right. Right, brilliant. Thank you for that. Yes, thank you.
I have a question on page 36 of the report. there's a few tables there. Table 6, which is split into two. There's mention of PACE assessments there, which there's no sort of explanation of what PACE is. I believe that relates to a form of therapeutic parenting that's developed by, I think, a chap called Dr. Dan Hughes. And I think it's quite an important key aspect of sort of helping children with developmental trauma and insecure attachment types. It's mentioned in the report that PACE assessments in the period 2021 and 22 and in April to August 22 were at 0. I was just wondering what's being done to ensure that children in foster care are getting the level of therapeutic parenting that they need.
Can I just check the page, because you said page 30.
30, so it's page 36 of 63 and page 21 of the report. It's under table 6. Have you found that? Oh, okay. But you found the table 6, yeah?
Form F, please.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it mentions PACE assessments were at 0. So I was just wondering, how do we know that foster children are getting the level of therapeutic parenting that they need if we've been unable to assess that?
Yeah. The PACE is very much linked to children who are, of course, in offending, and we have foster carers who would be the PACE carers and will take on that emergency. We haven't had, in terms of PACE assessment of foster carers, we haven't had any this year. We have one, and she has been available to take on. And also, as I said, the support, that therapeutic support that is provided is through our psychologists. So I know that some of the young people who have been placed with her or placed with other, foster carers who are not necessarily PACE carers, they've had the support that is required. So that the therapeutic intervention is with the carer and, of course, the caring situation within the family home.
Chair, sorry, I'll just give our apologies because that's an acronym, which was the point that was made at the beginning, and that acronym stands for Police and Criminal Evidence Act. Yeah. And within the criminal PACE, when a young person is taken into custody or turns up at the police station or is arrested, then the PACE, which, the acronym, so the Police and Criminal Evidence Act 1984 states how children should be treated during that period. And if they're held over, so they don't remain in custody overnight, because we don't want our children in custody overnight whilst they're going through investigations, they can be placed with an emergency bed under PACE. So the shorthand in that report is that we recruit some carers who are simply there to offer just a kind place, really, and support for a child who might find themselves in that position and can't return home for whatever reason that evening. So it's our fault, it's our error, because obviously the acronyms could be misinterpreted to be a therapeutic placement. Technically, it should be a therapeutic space because you'd want it to be in that circumstance, but we don't very often use PACE beds. We do have, as Teresa said, we do have, and we have done, but we tend to try and get our children home or with a family member wherever possible. But that's what it's all about.
Thank you. Thanks for clarifying. I was thinking of a different PACE. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Wahid.
Chair, you've suggested that face-to-face support groups are introduced back for the foster carers. 6 to 8 weeks. What about the foster child? How
The-
often do you visit them?
Oh, yes, all of the children looked after.
Yeah, yeah.
They have their allocated social workers, and they are seen, face to face. All the social workers are required to see children face to face, make sure that they see the children by themselves, so that there is the contact and space for the children to be able to talk to the foster carers, to the social workers without, foster carers probably being there.
So every 6 to 8 weeks, or is it longer?
Every 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks, actually.
4 to 6
Yeah.
weeks, that's
The children for our law, every looked after child would be seen within the 6 week mark, but we say between 4 to 6 weeks. And for some, where there are difficulties, we have even seen children every 2 weeks for a period of time if there is a need to do so.
And speaking to a foster care, used to do picnics for the foster children and the families. And I know it was stopped due to COVID-19, and it was going to be held in autumn. Have you got a date for that or anything?
We haven't yet come up with a date. We tried to organize
Right.
a date, and the discussions with the foster carers. So we did consult, but we didn't get a specific date for that, which is a shame. But we are trying very hard for next year to sort of think around April. We were looking at around April, June to look at our awards day for the foster carers. And then, of course, next year, hopefully that as the weather gets better, we would then look at the picnic for
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Carers.
Thanks. Just one more question for me, actually. So, see, the support that's being given to foster carers is really looks really good. Regarding the psychological and therapeutic support, is that also provided to early permanent foster carers who are like fostering to adopt, essentially?
Sorry. Well, foster to adopt, those foster carers would have had, yes, the initial training around, the fostering, but also, adoption, because that is the plan forward. And they would have had that counseling and that therapeutic input. Yes, very much so. And again, it depends on the various people, the experiences they are bringing. Some are coming without, they have childcare backgrounds, or they have their own children, and they know, what caring for children is about. They might not have thought about adoption in the detail. So that is what the training gives them. And if they require the post-adoption counseling, that would be provided.
Thank you. Any other questions from the floor? No? Okay, so the recommendation is to review the annual report and comment on the content which we have done. So thank you very much for the report. Yeah, well, thank you. Cheers.
Just to again apologize for the acronyms. It's something that I will take back and we will look at for next time. So sorry. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to the next item on the agenda, item 8, which is the creation of the Children and Care Council update, which is on pages 41 to 43 of your agenda book. And I think that's been covered by Alison Parkinson.
Hi, thank you, Chair. So I'm sure hopefully you've all had the opportunity to read the report. This is a brief update of the Children in Care Council, and just to remind everybody tonight that it is Children in Care Council Week. So we've got celebrations going on, lots of activities for our care leavers. So we've got so hopefully that those activities have been fed your way, and if not, then we can make sure that they are. Sorry, that's not. So so the Children in Care Council we discussed, didn't we, and we what we called modernise that in August 21, and we went through a period of virtual meeting. Since November 21, the group have met face to face. The aim of the Children in Care is to provide all our children in care and care leavers with the opportunity to become involved, and all of our young people, we decided, would automatically be enrolled in that, and we would automatically write to them and keep in touch with our young people who were in our care or our young people who were leaving our care. They made some, so they made some clear steers with us. They no longer want to sit in meetings and they want to have fun first. So this request has been listened to, and a monthly youth group has been developed alongside weekly chill-in. They call it chill-in sessions for care leavers. That's on a Thursday night at Limbury. Thank you. So again, members are welcome if they want to, perhaps not all at the same time, but if they want to go and meet with young people that are at the chill-in session, please let us know and we can arrange that. So the young people are aware that as their corporate parents, we do need to ask their collective views to help us develop and improve. So to achieve this during school holidays, workshops are held and then followed on by activity. So and that's been very much the focus again of this week. Yesterday, lots of discussions about what's going well for them, meetings to talk about apprenticeships, talking about their opportunities, but then I think they went to the zoo afterwards, didn't they? So yesterday is part of that sort of fun first, really. They designed the logo, which you'll see in your papers, and they have renamed themselves All in This Together, which is quite lovely. What makes the perfect adult? That was to establish what qualities children and young people want from adults who work with them. They've reviewed the fostering guides. They've discussed who they would like to and want to attend their review meetings. So, in terms of independent reviewing officers for children who are in our care. We've also now invested in an independent reviewing officer for care leavers. So Tom continues to support our young adults, as you would expect, because as we do as parents, support our young adults as they move into that transition from our care to a level of independence. They've established what dream jobs or careers interest them and what ways the council can support them to achieve that, and what information all children and young people becoming cared for need, and the best format to have this information. In February, the first Chat Matters survey was launched. 2 versions of the survey were produced, one under 18 and another for 18 plus. And the survey aims to give feedback for young people on their experience of the pledge and the Leaving Care Charter. The analysis from this survey is being used to establish priorities for all in this together, Children in Care Council and Leaving Care Forum to campaign for. So the themes that were included were keeping in touch with family and friends, a friendly social worker, an independent reviewing officer who respects and listens to you, and when you move to a new home that you can take your personal things with you. So that one makes you stop and think, really, doesn't it? You think, well, wow, you just take that for granted. But yeah, so obviously very important to our young people. So our young people have to explore these themes further with our young people focus groups planned from now, October to December, and the Social Work Academy will be involved in these groups to develop an informed practice. The information gained from the focus group will work towards developing a "you said we did" and a closing the loop mechanism. The aim of this is to have an update with our young people on the action taken as a result of the things they've told us. So the young people have suggested they'd like to merchandise, they would like to feel part of the group, and having merchandise which contains the logo developed by the young people would give them identity as a collective. So we're currently looking at the costings for this. Okay. Okay, I have lost my screen and I have lost my paper copy for the final page. So I'm going to have to stop there, Chair, and ask for any questions at that point.
Question. So, Councillor Moles.
I'm sorry to have to ask this, but is this the group that has become since the children's panel ceased to be in existence?
Yes.
Yes, this is it was a government incentive, wasn't it?
Yes, maybe about 10 years ago, in terms of where that came from. having a children in care council. So we did have a children in care council in Luton in some ways, but we had a young person's group, didn't we?
Yes, yes.
But one of the feedback from our other young people was that was kind of a very small group and tended to be young adults who'd left care, so just care leavers. So the idea that we would go back to scratch to look at a children in care council and also a care leavers forum. So we didn't have a children in care council. Our young persons group was actually our care leavers forum. So we now have children, much younger children, who are coming together as part of their children in care council, formed a group, having fun together, but also talking about things that are really important to them. So yeah, does that answer that? Yeah.
Yes, and it would be quite nice if when you're well established, and that if a couple of children the older children could come along and maybe just give a small presentation to the council.
I think that's a great idea. I'm sure that both our young and our both groups would probably, I'm sure, be really interested in doing that. So we'll take that back to the groups to see how we could do that. I mean, equally, we might have to do it in a less formal way. So it may be that we create an event so that actually members can kind of meet with our young people, but we do it in a fun way. So it's not quite as formal as this setting, if that's okay.
Yes, that would be a good idea.
Great, thank you for that.
A question for, so you mentioned obviously that this is open to all children in care and care leavers. Do you have sort of figures on sort of how much of an uptake there's been in terms of, I don't know, a percentage or anything like that? Just curious as to how much of an uptake there is.
At the last count, there was 6 or 7 young people altogether. What was pleasing to know is that we had a few more younger children, but I couldn't tell you
There's a lot more at Chile.
Oh no, at Chile, I thought it was the Children in Care Council. Oh, at the Chilean Club.
Yeah.
Oh, that is plenty. Every Thursday, the meeting is between 20 and 25 young people who turn up. I went there this morning, and at the last count, there was 24 and more to come in the afternoon. That is very, very popular. They've started to cook for themselves, and the excitement is the competition about, who is cooking what. Yeah. So no, that is extremely popular. Sorry, I thought you were talking about the Children in Care Council.
Councillor Petts.
Yeah, I applaud you for doing this, but when we had the Children's Council, well, it wasn't the council, it was the Young People's Panel. There was initially some criticism that they weren't getting the feedback that they needed, and they became frustrated. That did change over time, and I think that towards the end of the group, they began to enjoy it. So, are you ensuring that they when they have their discussions, does anyone take minutes?
So I think there's 2 different groups. It's really important that we hear both the children's experience, but also the children leaving our care, so what we call the chilling group. So they are very proactive in terms of how they challenge us. We visit them. They also have our lead member, Councillor Salim, goes to meet with them. I think that at this point, it's a good suggestion that we kind of tighten that link really in terms of how they can have some more member conversations about how the corporate parenting board links really with them in terms of checking their views out. But that does go into the corporate parenting board, and so we should be able to see that golden thread through. The younger children, that's a new group and it's establishing itself. So what we see here, what we've done is what's called the Chat Matters survey. So that's gone out to all children in our care. I don't know because I haven't got the data, but I can certainly come back to that in terms of the under 18s and the over 18s. And that's really important because that anonymously asks everyone what they think about their time in care. So we've also got the independent IROs who are also really important. So their report coming here to scrutinise what's happening with our children in care and whether they're actually getting what they need and how they need it. And then we have we have a independent advocacy service that we commission, so young people can also contact our advocacy service, NIAS, and they can use them to challenge if they're in our care or a care leaver. So there are a number of formal routes and a number of informal routes. And certainly when we've attended the chilling group, they're very proactive. Teresa, I don't know if you want to add anything that any feedback that we've had that's made that we've had to listen to.
Yes, when you brought that up, I remember the 2 years ago and the work we have been doing. I know you were on the corporate parenting and so these conversations were had. Now Ali has already explained the forums for the feedback, but I would say to you now that some of the feedback you heard and you're saying now, we've listened to that, and you would recall that one of it was about the young people said to us very clearly that they do not want to book appointments to come and see us. Do you remember that? They want to be able, their parents being able to offer them jobs. Do you remember? So we've taken all of that on board, and we would say that most of the young people, certainly they would ring Ali or Amanda and just come in and see us. So that is a given for them. But what has been so good and so heartening to see is that we've worked so hard over the 2 years, and we actually employ now 8 care leavers in the family firm. Yeah, and all of them turned up to the chilling club today, and 2 of them actually spoke about their own experiences of being in care, so that those who are coming up heard that, but also spoke about their aspirations and what they have achieved. Yeah, 8 young people. It's not bad. We want to do more, and we're really working very hard to look at that. But 8 from the time we were having conversations to now, that is not a bad move at all.
Thank you. Do you still have the pledge? You do?
We do.
And is that still promoted?
Yes, that is promoted. We have the pledge. I should have some, around here, but yeah, the pledge is there. We have the Care Leavers Charter as well.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the web page, if you need to look at our living care page, we've modernized that and developed that so that it is more accessible to the children and young people.
Any other questions, comments? No. So the recommendation is just to note the contents of the report. So that's duly noted. Thank you. Okay, so thank you for that. So moving on to item 9, which is the Family Hub and Start for Life programme, which is on pages 44 to 48 of your agenda packs. I believe that's in the hands of Elizabeth Elliott and Michelle Bailey. Is that right?
Yes, Michelle Bailey. I'm here to update members on our Family Hub and Start for Life programme. set out some key milestones and detail our governance and update you on the strategic direction of the family hubs and how they fit in with our Luton 2040 ambition and how they meet the aspirations of Luton becoming a child-friendly town, and also help to address some of the health inequalities that were set out in the Luton Marmot Town Report, specifically giving every child the best start in life. We have been fortunate enough to receive or been selected to receive a grant for family hubs and Start for Life transformation from the Department of Education and the Department of Health and Social Care. This is, I think, the second update to Children's Scrutiny with regard to this. So we've come back and given you some more information on kind of what that development looks like. The initial focus of these hubs is the first sort of 1,001 days, so the early years, so from sort of preconception to age 2. But the aim of the programme is to develop that further. So the hubs will cover sort of 0 to 25 and include our children with special educational needs. So they're not just building base, we're looking to kind of improve and develop our digital and virtual offers so our families can have access to services when and where they need it. They tell their story only once, and they can get support in a variety of forms. The funding we're getting is sort of transformation funding. On page 46, I've set out kind of the funding that we're going to be receiving and how much is allocated to each sort of funded area. There's a programme guide that sets out kind of our key must-dos and minimum expectations of these grant conditions, and you can see that they're set out over kind of 6 different areas. But if you look on page 46, the amount of spend allocated, you can see kind of the importance of different areas that the Department of Education, Department of Health and Social Care are putting on areas. So they've attributed 31.3%, very exact amounts, to parent-infant relationships and that perinatal mental health. So that's kind of their focus. And then lesser amounts on sort of parenting support and infant feeding support. There's a small amount in the funding for capital spend that can be spent on some of our buildings to make them more welcoming hubs, and maybe some sort of fixtures and fittings, sort of new chairs, etc. if we needed them, and then an amount for programme spend, which is to actually sort of help us deliver and do that transformation, because this is around sort of system change and all our partners working together. Some of the key milestones that we need to meet, we've been working hard over the last couple of months doing a lot of stakeholder engagement, setting up our governance. We've set up a strategic partnership board, which feeds into our Children's Trust Board and Health and Wellbeing Board. We had our first meeting a couple of weeks ago. There are working groups that we were setting up, and we'll have over the next month for each of these funded areas, and they will feed into the strategic partnership board. We have to develop a delivery plan by December, so we will bring that back to this group for review. And the 2 sort of key milestones that we have to do by April 2023 are publish our Start for Life offer and establish our parent carer panels. So our parent carer panels will be a mixture, obviously, of parents, carers, new parents, and we've been engaging with our current parent carer forums, EPIC, and our Maternity Voices partnerships, and Flying Start services have parents voices as well as Cambridge Community Services, our 0 to 19 have, and our patient participation group. So we're looking to kind of bring all those together. The Start for Life offer that we need to produce, it needs to be in a hard format. The idea is that when someone has a child, they're given information of the services that are available to them there and then, and that they know what's available to kind of so they can, what services they can go to, where they can find help and support. We have a few maternity hubs that are now in the community at Farley, Chall End and somewhere else, I've forgotten the other one. But one of the ideas is that women can go for their sort of antenatal appointments, and then afterwards they're local to them and they can go and get sort of early years services. And on our next milestone is the first family hub should be open by the first half of 2023, and then future ones over the following 3 years. We are looking at kind of how we sort of communicate and market the family hubs. We've been talking and looking at the Luton Place branding that's been going on. So we are going to be sort of contacting or procuring a creative media agency to help with sort of logos and branding to kind of make that more, help raise awareness and for the Family Hub network. And we've also been doing a stock take of early years research that the Institute of Health Research and Health at the University of Bedfordshire have been doing, and we've got a stakeholder engagement and research to practice event on the 8th of November where some of this research will be presented, and that will help to inform what our family hubs will look like. Any questions?
Councillor Moles?
Whereabouts, because I can't see anything in here about where these hubs are going to be set up within the town, or how many they're going to be.
That's part of the development, so we're still working on that. We haven't got the money yet, but we are looking at kind of what buildings we have available. We are looking at sort of our community centres, our libraries, some of the sort of outreach sites that already deliver sort of early years services, our faith settings. The hubs can be delivered in a variety of ways. There could be one main hub which can deliver all the services that are set out, or they can be outreach where families can go and an allocated time for one or two of the services, perhaps for parenting groups or sessions, or they can be virtual. So next time we come back, we will have probably a better plan. So what we're working on at the moment is kind of a options appraisal of all the current buildings that are available potentially, and the sort of pros and cons with regard to that. So we're hoping that we could have one or two across the town main hubs that could be multi-purpose buildings, so we can help support and our community centres to make them more sustainable, and our libraries and things like that. So that's a work in progress, so we'll bring that back next time.
With this, I mean, it ran the flying start, did quite well, and I'd like to see them in the north, south, east and west of Luton, four hubs, so it's accessible to all people. I mean, if you go from where I live in the east of Luton and you find that there's one in the north of Luton, it's quite a long way for people to go that haven't got their own transport, or a bus service even now. So I do think they should be evened out a little bit across the town.
I totally agree with you. Yeah, we want to aspire to have one potentially in the town is set up in education neighbourhoods, so that north, south, east and west and central. Ideally, it would be great if we could have one in each of those, and then there's some outreach sites. So we're looking at that, or at least have a presence in that. So because the services need to be local to people. People aren't going to want to travel, certainly not, with the rising costs of everything. So yeah, we are looking at that. So we will, and we're looking at high areas of need as well. So make sure that's taken into.
Councillor Wahid?
Chair, would the hubs deliver oral health?
Yeah, so they'll all help to deliver those sort of key public health messages. So fly and start services deliver some of those already. So, and our school nurses, they will be one of the things that they will be bringing on board as well.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Let's see if I've got any questions or comments myself. So the recommendation is to note the development of the Family Hub and Start for Life programme, to update the Family Hub strategic partnership and governance of programme, and to note the strategic direction of the Family Hub and interdependencies of services, and how the Family Hub will be a vehicle for child-friendly town and help support Luton 2040. So I think any comments or that in favour? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your report. Thank you. Good. Moving on to, excuse me. Moving on to the next item of the agenda, which is the draft work plan. Again, this is really just to note what's in the plan. We do have quite a lot in the plan for the next meeting in November. We usually tend to limit it to 4 items. So possibly I might, we might look at reviewing this before the next meeting, and moving some of the items to later meetings. As always, if any member has anything they want added to the forward plan, feel free to raise it under this item, or let me know, and we can look at adding it to the work plan. In addition to the items that have actually been scheduled, there's also the list of future items on page 52, for which we're sort of yet to confirm timing as to when those reports might be available. Okay, any questions or comments? Councillor Donnelly?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Right, well, I would refer everybody to page 52, and this is what I raised on the last occasion. And there was some discussion about it, and I was really disappointed to see it's about resources available for families in the circumstances where multiple children from the same family go into adoption. And I was really, really disappointed to see that we've got date to be confirmed, because I understand that we're all on the same page, aren't we, members and officers, that we want to provide the best possible service for the residents of Luton, and that the ideal situation for children to grow up is within their birth family. We want to try and keep them in their birth family. And we have a shortage of foster carers, and we've sat and we've listened to a very, very impressive presentation. And we don't have enough foster carers, and we would need far fewer foster carers if we didn't have to remove children from their families. And that's why the last presentation was particularly helpful, because anything that can be done before we enter into proceedings, before the matter is being dealt with by the court, and we have court orders that remove children, before that, anything that can be done in order to help children and their families has got to be positive. And I'm sure people are aware of the fact that you have families where child after child after child is adopted, and you go to court and the social worker will say, well, the previous child was adopted 6 months ago, so there's an updating parenting assessment, and unfortunately it's not sufficient insight or change that the court feels the parent has made in order to keep the child. And there's this continual circle. This is immensely important, and so what I would just ask is if we could please give a date for this to go onto the work programme. I mean, I sort of hoped after the last meeting, because there was some discussion about it, and people are aware of, there used to be a resource called Pause, which was very successful, but unfortunately, due to funding issues, it stopped. So there was discussion about, well, we can't call it Pause, and so that's why it's described that way, which is absolutely fine. I don't mind how we describe it, but it is so important. And I would hope that people agree that it's the work that's done pre-proceedings that's of the most benefit with families. And I would ask that we could possibly, I don't mean to be difficult, but if we could get a date maybe that we could have a presentation on this.
Chair, can I respond, please? I mean, I guess it's the separating out, because you said an awful lot in that statement, and it's not one area that you're describing. So So the Family Partnership Service, which has at least 50 key worker staff in it, does a lot of the work in terms of supporting families to enable children to stay in their birth families or in their family network. Once families kind of go through that statutory level, they come into kind of childcare, statutory childcare, where they are determined as a child in need or a child in need of protection. Then they have a provision related to a social worker, and their early help work doesn't, it's not repeated, it's built upon in terms of the next level of intervention. So after that process, if they're not successful in terms of being able to make change, they go into what's called the pre-proceedings process under the public law outline, and that then is a kind of a determination for the local authority to sit with a family to kind of give a very clear message, if the message hadn't been landed at this point, that these are the changes that you need to make for your to enable you to continue to parent directly for your children. And at the same time, there's a conversation with the wider family network again to look at what support they can offer. So there are a number of layers of support that we go through that hopefully means that we can make the difference for children and their families not being on a repeat cycle, not being on a repeat cycle of neglect, not being a high number of siblings that automatically come into care. So a lot of that, and I know you know, I'm familiar with the Pause project that is looking at more than 2 children that have been removed from usually working with mothers, and is not part of children's services delivery. It sits outside because it's an adult relationship. So it requires the mother to abstain from future pregnancies whilst they go through a programme of support to enable them to positively parent. So it's doesn't sit in a children's services delivery, it sits as an adult relationship. And I know some local authorities have supported, along with others, the investment required for that charity to be able to do that work. We do a lot of that work in our family partnership service here in Luton. We don't not do that work, so we do provide that work. We've recently been inspected by Ofsted. The report's fairly detailed. Our pre-proceeding work was looked at because it was an issue in 2020, and the report was within Ofsted was that, you know, we've been very successful in terms of really improving our practice around pre-proceedings work, but our early help services also. So for me, the sort of wider point is the questioning around what we're trying to achieve. We're also, when we look at our stat neighbours for looked after children, so even though we have a number of looked after children, and that's right and proper, we actually are lower than our stat neighbours for looked after children. So given our demographics and given some of the issues that our family face, that tells us that our early help is going well, because actually we have a lower number of looked after children than our stat neighbours, where you'd expect to see that. So we do have, our adoption numbers were at 23 last year. 23 children were adopted. Some of that was related to pandemic, because some of those children were delayed through that. So there was a catch up, and some of that is right and proper, but we're not bucking the trend in terms of the number of children that are adopted. What that also means is that we're seeking permanence. Children aren't just remaining in foster care and on a revolving door process. They're actually getting into permanence. So I don't think anyone would disagree with what you're saying in terms of children who may be subject to care proceedings, but that's tested. I'm sure you're well aware that's tested in court in terms of intervention, and that being right and proper, and that we should have applied wherever possible pre-birth work, which we do, pre-birth support, and a number of other strategies. But the Pause project itself is an expensive project, and it sits outside of delivery. So we do that delivery, but we do it in a different way. So I wanted to clarify, I think probably in terms of the future work programme, because I'm not sure really what we'd be reporting in terms of what it is you would be seeking to gain reassurance on, so I could bring the right information to the meeting.
Please, Chair. Yes, no, I'm acutely aware of the work that's done in the public law out. I completely accept that. But what I'm saying is, once it gets to court, as you'll be aware, it's all about timescales. It's meant to turn around in 6 months, and a lot of parents can't turn their lives around in 6 months. And often one child is adopted and they're pregnant with another child, and their parenting assessments say there hasn't been sufficient change. And I have represented mothers who've wanted to go into this programme, and I've been told by social workers, well, there isn't the funding, it isn't available. And these are social workers who would like this to be available. So sort of saying, oh, this is adult social care. We're here dealing with children. So I would say that there needs to be some sort of collaboration then with adult social care and with children's services to see what can possibly be provided, because ultimately it benefits children's services, doesn't it, if the children can remain in their birth family.
The way I explained that was wrong. It's not adults social care. My explanation is that it's the mother is in the Pause project, because that's a particular project which, you know, it can be delivered by, there's lots of different projects. There's different organisation that delivers projects. We deliver that within our own services. So we deliver support to parents who pre-birth. We can bring a report to tell you about what kind of work we do so if it's the second or third child, how we work with that parent. What I'm saying is, though, you mentioned Pause as an organisation, particularly, that relationship is a worker who comes from the Pause organisation and works with the mother. It doesn't remain open to social care. The mother and that organisation work together separately from children's services, and they then work to establish a relationship, which means they deal with their adult problems. So if they have substance misuse, if they have psychological problems, they do that with the Pause organisation. What you're describing is a commissioning of for the local authority to find that funding and commission that resource separately. So that would be something that's a commissioning conversation as opposed to service need. I think the conversation that I could bring back here, not a commissioning conversation, but I could bring back here a conversation about the number of children that have been through who've been through proceedings. We chair the LFJB for the region, so we report to the local family justice board, and we give all of that information, and we talk on the regional level and a national level about some of these dilemmas. So we can report how many children go through proceedings. We can report how many children have, you know, are siblings of children that have previously gone through proceedings, and we can tell you about the support services that we provide to those families. But taking your point that you've represented different families, I'm not sure when that was and whether the family partnership service was in place at that time that would be working with our pre-birth families, but it's just getting you the right information as opposed to can we commission Pause? I'm not sure that's the right agenda item for here.
Okay, sorry, I don't want to tie up the conversation, but apologies if I've no, apologies, this is my final point. Apologies if I've misquoted you, but the point I'm making is that when you talk about pre-birth, I'm talking about parents who've had children adopted before that person is pregnant again. And I think it's important, if it is commissioning, so be it. If you do provide something, so be it. But I think it's important information that should come before this committee. And I would ask, could we have that then in a paper so that all the other members could have a look at it and consider it? Because I hope that you agree it's immensely important that we don't have child after child after child being adopted. We'd need fewer foster carers, fewer court hearings, if we could maybe keep them within their birth family. So I'm just wondering if you could provide that, if that would be possible, please.
Yeah, so this is in the future work plan under, I think, bullet point 4 on page 52. So if possible, if you can sort of like let us know approximately when you'd be able to produce a report for that, that would be probably helpful. But I think the discussions you're having need to be.
I'm still coming back to just being really clear about what it is we're being asked to report on, because it's a difficult conversation to report on a commissioning conversation. I'm not sure that, so if it's just about how many children have been adopted and then how many other children have been adopted in the same family afterwards, because that's what I'm not, Chair, I'm not 100% clear what it is. Of course we can report, but I don't want to come back with a report and you say it's the wrong thing. So could we just check, could you just be really clear with me if I'm missing the point about what it is you specifically you want us to report on?
Yeah, so I mean, as I understand it, it's what resources are available for families in the circumstances where multiple children from the same family go into adoption. Yeah.
It's not just the statistics. We don't need that. We need what resources are in place to try and prevent this happening. Thank you.
So yeah, so if we can put a date in if that would be good. Councillor Maltz.
I asked a while ago for if we could have a report from CAMS, because I've been made very aware of children's issues with mental health. There's been a huge increase in the service, and I asked a few meetings ago, and I see there really isn't anything. Well, there's children and young people mental health action plan, but if somebody from CAMS could come and explain the situation and how they're coping.
Can I just come in on that? Sorry. It might help if at the same time as that action plan coming, we couple that with somebody from CAMS. Elizabeth, actually, who's around the corner from the pillar from me, is the lead for the action plan. So we can perhaps liaise and do a joint piece on children's mental health. I can't have a conversation around the pillar. We can have a conversation offline and work out a time frame.
Yeah, this is a separate project. So the family hubs is separate to the children and mental health piece of work. So that's going to be coming back, and I'm absolutely happy to work with CAMS. Obviously, we don't commission CAMS; it's through the ICB, but we have very close relationships with them, and we really, work very closely. So happy for them to come and talk about the work that they do, both with their mild to moderates and moderate severe needs young people. I think that would be fine. If that goes on the forward plan, we can have a discussion as to when that would best, be best place to come.
We are Scrutiny Children's panel, and it is a big issue out there in the real world. So I think we're entitled to have a few answers as to how they're coping. And
no, absolutely. And I wasn't trying to say that it wasn't a problem for us. It absolutely is. But again, as it is a CCG ICB service, but absolutely they will come to us. They'll be more than happy, I'm sure, to come and talk about their services.
Thanks for that. So Councillor Waheed.
Thank you, Chair. Why on the are we on the programme, aren't we, or work programme on page 51? Why have we got tobacco strategy twice?
Yeah, I suspect that's a typo. Yeah.
Yeah. So on the 11th of January meeting here.
Yeah, I think that's just a typographical error. Councillor Donilon.
Sorry, I'm so sorry. Yes, no, I'm just wondering. So we've got date to be confirmed. So will we have the next meeting? We'll know when it's coming in the work programme. So the very latest will be January. I think we're up until January, aren't we? When we've got reports. So I know we've got February actually.
We've got February, yeah. So it will
at the very latest February. We'll get that report. Hopefully earlier, if possible.
We'll discuss with the officers to see when they can get them.
I'm so sorry.
Yes, hopefully, but yeah, we'll discuss with the officers to make sure they're able to.
But we'll have a date next time. But we'll be.
Chair, we can give a date now. I mean, that was just a clarification from my perspective. It's not a problem. So yeah, we can report by January if that's. Yeah, no, it's not. I mean, we do have that information to hand. It's not a problem. I just wanted to make sure that I got the right, got hold of the right end of the stick.
That's
which
great.
I've now got.
Thank you. Thank you.
January is I mean, and I guess the other thing to say is that, you know, we do have officers who are running these services. So obviously, so Daniel Toth is newly taken, he's the head of service for Family Partnership Service. So, you know, by all means, contact Daniel. And if you want to go and talk or see or just kind of understand what's going on, that's another really good way to kind of understand. So it isn't just sometimes just waiting for the report, you know, by all means, you know, reach out and we can arrange a visit. We can show you where the services are and we can talk you through what's, you know, what's going on. So, but obviously we'll formally report but also just be in touch with me and we can talk about how we can actually sort of, you know, kind of connect you in if you've got time.
That, can I just respond? That'd be wonderful. I really appreciate that. I'm just keen that everybody in the committee has access to the report. Thank you.
Make sure they do.
Okay, thank you. Anything else under this agenda item? No. Alison, yeah.
Chair, well, just to confirm, but we recently had the adoption report. So I just need to go back and check when that's actually due because it's an annual report and I think it's down as the January. So that if we shift that to be oh yeah, we just had it, didn't we? So because it's annual, so if we put in the other report that's required instead of that, and then we'll give you the date of when the annual report is actually due. Is that okay, Chair? Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So we'll move that to a later date and put in the resources available for January. Yeah. I'm just scribbling that down.
Feel like we've got there eventually,
Yeah.
Chair. Sorry.
That's fine. That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on to the next item of the agenda. So go ahead. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the next item is under the Local Government Act 1972. The item under question was discussed in private, away from public. So we'll need to request that members of the public leave and that the live stream